Well, it's finally happened. After 10 years, 430 chapters, and selling over 100 million copies around the world, Kohei Horikoshi's legendary manga My Hero Academia has reached its end. So today, we're going to break down the story, the power at its heart, and the really tough questions it leaves us with.
It all kicks off with this simple but world-changing question. Just imagine, for a second, a world where being extraordinary isn't the exception. It's just the rule. In this world, a staggering 80% of the entire population is born with some kind of special superhuman ability. They call it a quirk. It's as common as having brown eyes or blonde hair. It's just a part of you. Now imagine you're in that other 20%. You're completely normal in a world of superhumans, powerless in a world built on power. Well, that's the reality for our main character, Izuku Midoriya. And that right there, that's the heart of this whole thing. Okay, so let's dig into this. How did the world even get like this? Well, the story's history starts generations ago with the very first known case, the birth of a baby that literally glowed, born in Qingqing City, China. So this new power was called a quirk. And as you can probably guess, when people all over the planet started developing random powers, things got chaotic fast. Some people used their quirks for evil, and in response, others had to rise up to stop them. And boom, that was the birth of heroes and villains. And this new society didn't just happen overnight. As you can see here, we're talking about generations of massive change. That initial chaos eventually calmed down and gave way to structure. Government stepped in, and heroism became a professional, regulated, state-sanctioned career. So how does our powerless main character fit into a world of pro-heroes? Well, it all starts with one very special power, a power that's different from all the others, not just because of its strength, but because it can be passed down. It's called One for All. And the crazy thing is, it was created by accident. See, there was this supervillain, All for One, who could steal and give quirks. He forced a power-storing quirk onto his younger brother, who he thought was quirkless. But the brother did have a quirk, a totally useless one on its own, the ability to pass his quirk to someone else. Well, the two powers merged, creating this incredible symbol of resistance that would be handed down for generations, all born from a conflict between two brothers. What's so cool here is that you can actually trace the lineage of this power. It's like this chain of 9 different heroes, each one adding their own strength to the quirk before passing it on. So, to really get it, let's trace it backwards, starting with the kid we all know. So you have Izuku Midoriya, the 9th and final user. And it turns out, his quirkless body was the perfect blank slate. It was the only kind of body that could handle all that stockpiled power. And for the first time ever, it allowed him to tap into the original quirks of every single user before him. And right before Izuku, there was his idol, All Might, the greatest hero the world had ever seen, the symbol of peace. And here's the kicker. Just like Izuku, he was born without a quirk. He held on to this power for an incredible 40 years before a major injury forced him to find someone to carry the torch. Now if we go back one more step, we get to All Might's mentor, Nana Shimura. And this is where that heroic legacy starts to get really complicated. It shows you the cracks in this perfect hero idea. See, Nana had to make this impossible choice. To protect her family from her enemies, she had to give up her own son. And that decision, which was driven by the insane pressure of being a hero, accidentally set her grandson on the path to becoming the series' biggest villain. The system itself kind of helped create its own monster. So here's the crucial point. This legendary power wasn't born in some fancy state-approved hero program. Nope. It started as this unsanctioned, almost desperate act of defiance. A weak younger brother just trying to stand up to his tyrannical older brother. The next 2 users, they weren't pro-heroes either. They were resistance fighters, keeping this tiny flame of hope alive completely outside the system. The very foundation of heroism in this story began as an act that today's society would probably label a crime. So you've got this incredible legacy, right? A power that was born from pure resistance, which then becomes the absolute pillar of the state-controlled hero society. But that society is far from perfect. And it makes you wonder, what's the real difference between a hero and a villain anyway? Yeah, one critical analysis puts it this way, suggesting that the celebrated hero society isn't nearly as noble as it looks on the surface. The argument is that this system, which puts state-approved heroes on a pedestal, is actually hiding a much more controlling, maybe even totalitarian way of thinking. I mean, when you really break it down, The main difference is just legality. It's paperwork. A hero uses their quirk with the government's permission, and they get paid for it. A villain does the exact same thing, uses their quirk, but without permission, and they get labeled a criminal. The act is the same. It's the state's stamp of approval that changes everything. So the argument here is that villains aren't just born evil. They're often created by a society that slaps a problem or deviant label on anyone who doesn't fit into its super narrow definition of a hero. It's a system that basically manufactures its own enemies by pushing people to the fringes. And the irony is just so deep. The very power that holds up this wicked system, one for all, was born from the exact kind of unsanctioned defiance that this society is now trying to crush. Whew, okay, so those are the kinds of complex ideas the story wrestled with for years. So now, let's zoom out from the world of the story for a second and look at the real-world journey of the manga itself, which ended almost exactly a decade after it started. From the moment it launched in 2014, My Hero Academia just exploded into a global phenomenon. The anime took it to a whole other level, and by 2024, it had solidified its spot as one of the best-selling manga series of all time, before wrapping up its incredible 10-year run. The very first chapter opens with our main character, Izuku Midoriya, saying this. It was a promise to the reader right from the start. We were going to watch this quirkless underdog kid achieve his impossible dream. But here's the beautiful twist the ending gives us. He does become the greatest hero, but the story completely redefines what that actually means. It wasn't just his story. It became the story of how his friends, his rivals, and yeah, even his enemies all played a part. In the end, it was the story of how they all saved each other. And that's the big question the series leaves us with. Is a hero defined by their power? Or by their fame and their rank? Or is it something else? Maybe being a true hero is less about having the strength to win every single fight, and more about having the courage to offer a helping hand, and just as important, having the courage to accept one when you need it most.